Welcome. Hey, welcome to Women Atheists Unload, a show by women for everyone. And this time we're going to mix it up a little bit with a calling show by taking calls regarding the topic for today, that is the war on women. So let's do this.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away. As you fade away.
Hey, and today with me is Mary. Hi, Mary.
Hi. Hey,
How
Alma.
are you
How you
today?
doing?
Good, good. So regarding this topic, we're going to have to start taking calls. So hopefully soon somebody will join, and I'll be here next to you to ruin everything. And
Did you really say to ruin everything?
yes,
I don't
but
know. I don't think you're going to
yeah,
ruin anything.
but anyway, anybody who wants to call in, we have on the screen and also on the lower part of the screen the number. So if you want to call and let us know what you think regarding the topic of today. So regarding this, Mary, I know that we have different experiences since we were in a different type of cults. I was in a cult that it was kind of controlling, but I realized that you were in a very horrible and controlling one that it was worse than everything that I could imagine.
Alma, Alma, I just have to say this. We're not here to measure our trauma. That's
Ah,
that's not why we're here.
yeah,
Um,
I know.
but high control religious groups they tend to do the same thing to different types of people, and they tend to use the same types and methods of control, but the ways in which they engage in that, some of them can vary greatly. And so I think what Alma's trying to get at, if I'm hearing you right, Alma, is that we had these parallel experiences where we experienced high control from the groups that we originated from,
Mhm.
and they happened to be specific religious groups. And while they were not exactly the same, there are still consequences of that. And some of the trauma that we experienced uh, manifests itself in similar ways. Did I get
Exactly.
that?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for that. And also, while we are trying to start the show today with calls, let's see if there's any calls yet. No, it seems that we don't have any calls yet. What do you think about the new wave of self-help gurus that are usually just talking about how women are horrible to everybody, and uh, it seems one of them even says that the world is controlled by women, so we are to blame for everything.
Have you ever heard of Darvo?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Isn't this just yet another case where, we deny the reality, the lived experiences of actual women, and collectively people are doing that. And by writing that and by saying that the world is supposed to be controlled by women or is being controlled by women, um, they're also saying that we are the victims. They're crying the victims. They're reversing the roles that were played. When you look at the patriarchal authoritarian control and you understand that this is the patriarchal authoritarian controllers reversing the roles, and then they play the victim like a fiddle. It's almost predictable.
Yeah, exactly. And this trend, I think it died out a little bit in the US. but speaking up in Latin America, even though we
Oh,
have like the really high amount of you know violence against women in here, they keep saying stuff like, "Oh, it's just that you are horrible, you control us, you're playing the victim card every time, and everything that happens is your fault." And the scary part of this is they're getting a lot of following. One of them even has like a ceremony where he baptized people, like now we are against women, or they have like a war mode or something like that. Yeah, projection. Yeah.
that that absolutely is projection. It's also one of the things that, you know, historically happen is that when you deny the lived reality of the most marginalized within a group of people, what you're doing is perpetuating and promoting more violence towards the marginalized within that group.
Hmm.
And even death can result from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's been very troublesome because they even the people that are doing it, one of them was just an actor. He didn't amount it to too much in the acting world, and he used to be one of those guys who go into Jerry Springer type of shows, to pretend that he was like, "Oh yeah, I got married to my cousin," or stuff like that. And now he is like a self-help guru that he has all the answers to everything, and he's saying, "Oh well, it's just that I cater to men that are alone and poor men, poor them, because nobody likes them, and they are perfect little angels."
This is like the whole thing, Alma, isn't it?
Hmm.
Where like one group of people is elevated and given more power because of their position in where in the world, and then they're turning it around when we talk about the atrocities that happen to women,
Hmm.
when we talk about the disparities in medical care, when we talk about the disparities in human rights, when we talk about all of the things that women have had to fight for,
Hmm.
where we talk about the violence that gets perpetrated against women. Oh, they're the victims.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what does that do? What is the goal of this? Like, why would you create something like this?
For so far, what I've seen with this type of people is just they're doing it just for the money, nothing else.
And power,
Exactly.
money and power.
Hmm.
And then, thank you, Seth. And
Thank you so much.
then they're doing it for the money and the power. But what else do they benefit from when they promote this narrative that they are the victims
Yes.
in this world
Hmm.
that has given them privilege? Whether they recognize that privilege or not, whether they're aware of that privilege or not, it's as simple as like they can be walking down the street, and because people see and perceive them to be men, they will benefit from that privilege. I am like really okay. Now I'm better. Looked like I went back in the Stone Ages. It's almost like I was being sent back in time.
Oh no.
But they're benefiting from that.
Hmm.
And they're benefiting in various ways. And it's not just money, it is not just power, it's prestige. That privilege, it follows them everywhere. It's like I was reading this book a couple weeks ago called When Religion Hurts You by Laura Anderson. And one
Oh.
of the things that when you come from a patriarchal authoritarian groups, one of the things that she mentions in that book is how when we grow up in an environment that holds patriarchal authority to be the end all be all or higher than the
Hmm.
authority of any woman to speak, What often happens is that when you exit that group, you tend to gravitate towards patriarchal authority still. And if it was patriarchal cishet white man authority, you still tend to gravitate towards that because that's what the church told you or taught you. That's what the group taught you to believe.
Exactly. Like in my case, the Jehovah's Witness, they love the teachings of Paul, where he starts to say, "Oh, women should not wear makeup too extravagant. They should not um, and use braiding on their hair." What else they were saying? Oh, that we should cover if there is a dude on the table praying with us. We should cover our hair. Um, we should learn in silence. That's the first part of it, and that's very expanded in Christianity in general.
Mm-hmm. So when these self-help gurus
Hmm.
are sitting there and they're promoting a narrative that helps support the perpetration of violence towards people that are not seen as equal to them, and they're crying victim while they do it.
Hmm.
What is that? Isn't there a name for that?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Terrible again. Yep.
And then when they sit there and they talk about the makeup as if like, so like that's a really fun thing.
Hmm.
When they talk about the makeup, women use makeup often to feel beautiful or because they want to, or the women that I know, they use makeup to feel beautiful or because they want to. They use makeup because
Hmm.
this is something that gives them, helps them feel valuable. But why is that?
Yeah, it's just that
And
since from very young age, seems like our value is always, oh, you look so cute, you look so pretty. Look at
mhm,
this. Don't get your dress dirty. You're gonna look ugly. No, 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 no. Sit down.
don't wrinkle your apron.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things. So we're taught when you're um, socialized as female, you're taught all of these messages subconsciously about your body, and those messages are inherently part of holding up the patriarchy.
Yeah, definitely.
And it serves a purpose though, because if women believe that they are not beautiful without makeup, and quite frankly, let me also give a disclaimer here. I also know men who wear makeup.
Mm-hmm.
I know people of all genders that wear makeup, and I think that's fine. If you want to wear makeup, wear makeup. If you don't want to wear makeup, don't wear makeup. But it doesn't make you any less of a person whether you wear makeup or don't wear makeup. And nobody should have that power besides you over your own body to dictate whether or not you wear makeup. But the fact remains that our culture and society has sat here and has put out these messages that to be a proper woman, you have to appear this way. You have to present in this way.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And if you don't comply with those expectations, what happens to you?
Yeah, and also, I don't know if it has happened to you that you are just going down the street, minding your own business, and some dude out of some random comes up to you and says, "Oh, you will look prettier if you smile a little bit more."
If you smile a little bit more,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
Alma,
okay.
it's like sit still, look pretty, speak demurely, don't
Mm-hmm.
exist, make yourself small. It's like this whole idea of like we're not supposed to have powerful voices. Our
Mm-hmm.
voices aren't supposed to matter. And furthermore, you needed a man to tell you how to look.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
That's everything that was wrong with you in your life. Like everything that was wrong in your life would be solved if you just had a man walking down the street telling you to smile. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's exactly how that works.
That's exactly how everything works.
Mm.
Let's see. Nothing more than mind control to fake compliments. Oh, also the fake compliments. Have you?
How
Yeah.
Alma, let me
Go ahead.
the things that men have said to me. I don't know how to explain this, but let's really delve into like what
Mm-hmm.
we experience, because some of the things that we experience is as men who think that women who date women, it's like they expect to have this invitation. They feel like they are
Oh.
entitled to. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're entitled to. And sometimes I just wonder, where do they get the audacity to sit there and ask somebody, we are people, we are your coworkers. Like, do you respect us if this is the first thing you do? When you realize that I'm a person who exclusively dates women, the first thing you ask me is, can I watch? Do where do
Um, yeah.
I'm gonna need you to put that audacity back in your pockets. That's what I need. But
Yeah.
also, where do they get that from? And why do they think it's okay to say stuff like that? And then the other part is like when you try to have friendships with men, what what I've often seen is like they have this expectation still.
Mm-hmm.
And if they feel like they're connected to somebody they perceive as a woman, immediately when they have those and when they have emotions or feelings, immediately it has to be sexual in some form, shape, or way. It's one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah. And and I'm always amazed how they can just spew their opinion without nobody asking, and without just like being plain rude, and they think that we're supposed to just, oh, haha, yeah, and be kind about it, because if you're not, then you are a bitch.
Oh yeah, and then they come
Yeah.
into your DMs, they come into your life, and they go ahead and they have like, they do this whole love bombing thing. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. And then they're like, "But why aren't you appropriately grateful?" It's like they show you minimal kindness,
Hmm.
minimal, and they expect us to fall over with gratefulness for that.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, like I just want to give a quick reminder, if anybody wants to call in and talk about this, you're more than welcome to. We would welcome any questions. The number is 984-789-4787. Once again, it's 984-789-4787. But going back to this whole like topic of like how women get treated and why
Hmm.
it's a war on women. It's a war on women because women have power, and because women are speaking up, and because women are uniting, and because women are working to raise awareness for a better future.
Hmm.
And that threatens the patriarchy. And if women threaten the patriarchy, they're going to do everything in their power to stop that. And
Yeah. Oh, look, I want to know what other men are doing when they hear other men disparage women or treat them like a lowly sex object.
that's a really good question. I want to know too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I I also want to know, what are they doing when they're in The locker room. Let's really go there. What are they doing when they're in the locker room, or what are they doing when men are talking about, oh, I'm gonna all they make these gross statements. I'm
Comments.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
And they're over sexualizing women, and often even young girls. They will
Hmm.
sexualize young girls. What are you doing? Are you telling them? Are you letting them know it's not okay? Are you policing up your own gender? Or are you sitting there and pretending that it is an attack on you that we are talking about how men do these things?
Exactly. And we had an example of that, with the last president, with the locker room talk, saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm just doing this and abusing that way," and the other guy was just like, "Haha, yeah." That was the whole answer. Like, "Oh yeah, haha, that's funny."
And furthermore, are you recognizing that for women to speak up about this, it is dangerous for them?
Hmm. Yeah, it is. It is very dangerous to speak up, and people keep saying that, oh, but you know what, you live in the first world country, you are like safe in here, what are you talking about? No.
The excuse of something being a locker room talk is really insulting. I would agree. It really
Hmm.
is insulting. It's not funny. It's not a joke. When we talk about gender based violence, it's not a
Hmm.
joke. It's not funny.
Yeah.
These are real people and their lives matter. Women are real people and their lives matter.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me that sometimes these people just kind of like, oh, you don't have any humor, you are just really bitter because you are offended by a joke. And no, dude, somebody had got killed, or somebody did not come home, or somebody just got assaulted, and you think that's funny somehow?
It's not funny. It's not funny. You know, sometimes I think part of it is because people, especially men, have benefited from this for so long. And because they've benefited for so long because of this, now they're going to dig in. They're going to dig in with both heels. And when people do speak up, how do they respond? Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I have seen the responses that goes, well, they first go for the appearance. If they see you speak up in a show or anybody and anything, they go, "Oh, you see that woman? Oh, haha, she's fat. We don't have to listen to her." Or, "Do you see that? She's short, or she's crazy." Or, but the first shot, and it goes specifically to the appearance of the people talking. The second one is like, "Oh, she's a woman. She's stupid, so we don't have to listen to her."
So then it goes to gender.
Hmm.
Okay. What do people use to justify that? What do they feel like gives them the right to be doing something like that? Like, why do they just get to dismiss women's voices? Like, I grew up in an environment where women were taught that, we could be school teachers, but we needed the school board, which was all men. And we needed the ministry who monitored the school board. And then there's the whole, I can't even think of the name of it, the steering committee in some states, and they monitored some of it too, but like ultimately all of it, what it boiled down to is they would take a young girl, often like some of, I had teachers that weren't even 18 years old, at some points in time, like we had teachers that were minors, and all they had was an eighth grade education, and they were supposed to be teaching,
Mm-hmm.
20, 30 kids. That
Yep.
was the only like involvement really, um, formally. Formally, women didn't get up and preach. Women didn't read from the Bible. Women didn't speak in public, like not how men did. There were ways in which I saw women work around those constraints. But
Mm-hmm.
I also think that those women, they were the ones who showed future generations that they are worth something.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So when we sit there and we consider like the disproportionate voice, so when the ministry got together twice a year to have their Dino their conference, or whatever you will call it, when they
Mm-hmm.
got together twice a year, what they did is they would rewrite the rules of the church. Now, women could go to their fathers, their LP.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I got distracted for a minute.
Yeah, yeah. I
Remind
read
me
that.
to answer that question, that comment in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Women could go to their brothers, their fathers, their husbands, their grandfathers, and perhaps voice their concern. But those men were also the ones who then decided if that concern was valid to be brought up.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So our voices, I felt like, were given to us by the men in control of us.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what is really, really harmful is then when you go into an environment where women are supposed to have more rights. Hey, we can vote here without, you know, having to
Mm-hmm.
have a man agree on our vote. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of important. I really
Yeah.
like that whole concept of like
Mm-hmm.
filling out my vote, and like I don't have to consult with a man on how to fill it out. Like I can go, it's almost like I'm capable of abstract and critical thinking. Almost.
Almost. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's why for me it's infuriating when, well, before we go back to the point of the comment, uh, that sometimes, okay, you can vote on your own, but still, like in medical practices, you go and ask, oh, you know what, I don't want to have kids. Can you, remove the uterus, or you do this kind of operation on me?
toodle,
But what if you get a husband later? What is it going to say?
uh huh, uh huh, and that's just another way in which it's oppressing women and it's harming women.
Yeah.
I would like to address this comment though,
Mm-hmm.
LP, if you're still listening here. If you know that somebody is molesting children and you do not report it to Childline, and most states have a Childline, what does that say about you? Please go report it.
Yes.
If you have evidence that somebody is molesting children and you do nothing, what kind of person are you? And if the community is hiding them or shielding the perpetrator of that, okay.
Oh, it
Can
was
you?
reported. Okay.
Okay, thank you. But I wanted to point out too is that often when you get communities of silence and you have that culture of silence, then what happens is that even if it gets reported, sometimes investigations won't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's about how much money that person has or their
Mm-hmm.
family has. Sometimes it's about like how much they can intimidate the victims to be silent, because
Oh,
it's not even
exactly.
about, yeah. Thank you for letting me know that was reported.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, it's frustrating that sometimes, oh, but this person has a lot of ties with the community. It's friends with the mayor. It's friends with the chief of police. So. that's why nothing is being done about it. and and yet they keep saying, oh, but women have all the power. Yeah, right.
Where do women have the power when they go report things like this?
Mm-hmm.
And let's just go back through the comments.
Mm-hmm.
LP is still listening, I'm assuming. Um, First, they said nothing was done about it. Obviously, this bothers them.
Mm-hmm.
Then, when I said what I said, it was reported, and then my mother took the girls to the police. Please tell me how LP's mother and those girls have any kind of power there.
Yeah. Yeah, the audacity of saying that. Yep.
There you go. It's
There
always
you go.
about that. It's always about that. It's the money. It's
Mm-hmm.
always the money. Understandably so.
Mm-hmm.
And once you know and understand that that is what is happening inside of many insular communities, or even just inside of the general public, like, well, what do we know, like, about? Do you remember? Good. Do you remember Brock Turner? I think was his name.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember the comments of how disgusting they were regarding, like, oh, but what are you gonna do about it? It was just 5 minutes of action. You wanna ruin his life over 5 minutes?
He's a predator.
No. Yep.
It's the entirety of society.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. The Jehovah's Witness has this rule that is from the Bible, and I'm probably they just took it out of context and they did not understand the thing. Um, but there is a rule in the Bible saying that you need the word of two witness in order to do something. But
Okay.
where are you gonna
Finish
get
your
those
thought.
two? Yep. Go ahead.
No, no. I was saying, finish your thought. We.
Yep. Yeah. Two witnesses for sexual abuse that only happened between probably a kid and an adult. Where are you going to get those two witnesses out of nowhere? And so the accusation is going nowhere.
Well, here's the thing. See, we use that same Bible verse, I
Mm,
believe, for it to mean that when the ministry came. I'm sorry, LP. LP, if you go to the misfitamish.com, you should have a contact button. You can send an email. But when you go to the ministry, what you would do is not even go to the ministry, but if the ministry came to admonish you, they would bring another minister with you. Like, the deacon's job was, he was supposed to be the one who went and admonished people, but he would bring like a minister or the bishop with him. And sometimes, if you were real bad, three of them would come.
oh,
That was our two witness. Like, we had to have, if you're rebuking your brother or your sister, you have to have
mm,
two or three.
yeah, yeah. That's why they just let everything go. And it was very surprising to me that when there was a law trying to make churches like the Mormon Church in Utah to report any abuse that they hear in confession or anything.
Mm-hmm.
The Mormons fought like hell to avoid that law, and it was surprising to me that the Jehovah's Witness was just went with it. And even though when they keep saying that every other religion is false and you should not mess with them and you should not be associated with them, they suddenly like, oh yeah, these Mormons are good, so yeah, let's go with them.
Hmm. Hmm. Every other religion is false except the one that you belong to.
Yeah, exactly.
I just, I'm going to say this, any group you belong to that holds that mentality of every other group is false, except that one that you belong to, that
Hmm.
creates a superiority complex. It creates an us versus them mentality, and it results in so much harm being done to people external to the group, because then if they're evangelists, then they believe they have to go out and recruit people for their group. Or even, like, I've seen it with new age groups too sometimes, where they go out and they really try to recruit people for their groups. um, it really is a place where it removes humanity for one another. It removes compassion and empathy for one another.
Hmm.
Like, if somebody doesn't belong to your group, then there's a divide between you, and the mental divide is sometimes harder to overcome and to bridge than it is for the physical divide.
It is, and it's also easy to dismiss what the other people are saying. Um, let's see the comment of Bree. It says, I think the funny Baptist I grew up in mostly just followed Paul's order of resolving disputes among believers. Take a brother or sister to the accuser, to the accused, go to the pastor, the deacons, and then the church. Wow. Yeah, that's a good way of nothing being done, of not, getting nothing done. Yeah.
Yeah,
And mhm, go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, well, also, I wanted to say that this mentality of us versus them is pretty much in every single cult that I have seen. The Jehovah's Witness, they claim that, oh no, we never there to disconnect families. We don't do that. We're like the really good people, you know? And at the same time, when you are in, they tell you, oh, you know, the bad companies keep will destroy the good habits. So be careful where you. Okay.
I got one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful the company you keep,
Mm,
or birds of a feather all flock together.
mm-hmm. Just feel sorry for the victims, but thank you. It was going constantly all over. At least two of the Bishop brothers were molesting their children. Nothing happened over and over. Yeah,
Because why? Why again?
money.
Because money, money and power and prestige. And some people, it's even because they don't think that. I've literally seen books that they they talk about 4-year olds inciting their fathers to lust after them by sitting on their father's lap. And that is some of the grossest content I have ever read.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start talking about how all of this is going on in the world, and it's not just in one group, it's not just in two groups, it's in all groups of people. We have human issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start talking about, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but a while ago there was a, what was it, an 11-year-old child. This is a child, y'all. An 11-year-old is a child who was impregnated by their rapist in the state of Ohio. Remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I remember that news too. Mm-hmm.
Was that before or after Roe v. Wade was overturned?
I think it was after. I think it was after because they were like, oh, now we have this law that has been overturned, so they trigger a lot of laws in a lot of states saying like, oh yeah, we can now ban abortion after this limit and after. Yeah, I think it was shortly after. Hmm.
I have a question for the people who think that women are ruling the world. What laws do men have about their reproductive rights? And also, do they pay taxes on things like, you know, that they need every day or every month?
Mm-hmm.
Because did you know that right now in America, we have luxury taxes on women's feminine products?
Yes. Yes, I never knew there was a luxury. I guess it's a luxury not to be uh, out on the street bleeding everywhere. I guess.
Hmm. Bree said razor blades if they shave, which isn't required. The point.
Mm-hmm.
The point. Feminine products, they literally tax women for requiring products every month. It's like we women get taxed for existing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
There have been approximately 63,000 rapes for females have been impregnated in states that have abortion bans. Yeah. And
Furthermore,
furthermore, regarding that, so you not only get, you know, impregnated against your will, you have to carry it against your will, give birth against your will, and also, later on, maybe the guy wants visitation. That's going to be awesome for you. Having to see the guy every 2 weeks so he can have visitation with his lovely children. Yep.
yep, that is going to be awesome. Because, don't you think
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. It seems that is awesome for the people who's ruling the world.
Hmm.
And well, since we're talking about ruling the world, don't forget to check out our other shows on Skeptic Haven. Tuesdays we have Secular Subpost, Box Thursday, The Sunny Spot, Saturday, The Global Atheist, and Women Atheists Download, and Let's Talk on Sunday. And remember, if you want to speak up and give your opinion regarding this topic, the phone number is 984 789 4787.
Well, we got Pablo in the comments talking about there is no war on women. No one cares. I'd invite Pablo to call us. We would appreciate your opinion. As Alma said, the number is 984-789-4787. Thank you. Uh,
So yeah, call. Let's see how great is your opinion regarding this topic.
yeah, I'm just saying.
Hmm.
You're welcome to call in. But
There
Bree
is
has a really
nothing to talk about. So that means that you just came in to what? Being a troll? You have nothing better to do then? Wow.
hey Pablo, why are you here if there's nothing to talk about?
Yeah.
I mean, there's this thing where you can keep scrolling if you don't like things, but you stopped and you took the time to write out multiple comments. And I feel like you have something to say.
Yeah, like if you really want to voice your opinion, you're welcome to call or not. Oops. I already got booted from my own chair.
you know, you got booted from your own chair because the computer.
Yep.
Wait.
Yeah, I am there now.
You were there now. Oh, I don't think Pablo will call. He wouldn't dare.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Well,
But anyway,
I just want to
mhm.
know how it's not a war on women when women literally can't get the medical care that they need because of the fact that they're women, and men can legitimately go into their doctor and just talk about their ED and get their little blue pills like that. Just
Yeah,
like that. Wouldn't it be fair? Wouldn't it be fair if we have to have our bodies and our healthcare legislated to the point that men get to decide whether or not we can get the medical care that we need because of our genitalia and our sex organs? Like, wouldn't it be fair if the same was applied to men? How do
I
you think
think
that would feel?
it will be great if, like, as women we should band together and, post try to create a law that every prostate exam will be done with mechanical tweezers, or I don't know, maybe uh, with hedge trimmers. That would be nice.
Oh yeah, and Carrie says, what about the gynecologist who doesn't take severe menstruation pains as serious, even when they double you over and makes you vomit? Have you ever experienced that, Alma?
I did when I was 13. Um, the first 3 months that I experienced my period was kind of like that. I I had to stay at home. I couldn't go to school or anything. But and the pain was unbearable. And still, at times, I get that horrible pain. But you know, I I have get used to it at this point.
I think one of the most harmful things that medical providers sometimes do is they look at women as not having equal, not displaying their pain appropriately, and they don't quite act as if our pain is serious because
Hmm.
it's almost like they've historically, what have they done? They've labeled women as hysteria, right? And
Oh yeah,
even
that was the first one. Yeah,
there's a
hysteria.
whole, yeah, like they like completely labeled women as hysterical, like um they're just not quite like, like we can't believe them.
Yeah, it has to be something wrong with your brain because nobody can feel that kind of pain, or nobody can feel like that at all.
Uh-huh. So when
Yeah,
women say they're in so much pain, what happens is like the
yeah,
medical profession as a whole has historically sat there and pretended that it is a mental thing. They have pathologized away women's expressions of pain as we're just imagining things.
exactly. Yeah, and it's weird for me. I remember that when I was in I had been in labor and delivery while doing my work because I have to be there as an interpreter, and the annoyed face that sometimes the doctors do, or the annoyed um, expressions they have when she is in pain or she's screaming. She's like, "Oh, come on!" or they're like, oh well, did you enjoy it when the baby went in, right? So just
Oh my God, that's so
yeah.
gross. Or like they say that women are just seeking attention, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, they don't examine, they don't look for any other causes. It's like they automatically make it be something like imagination, like they gaslight women, and then they miss things. Like somebody's LP says, I was in pain and given antidepressants. I had Hashimoto's disease, so I suffered for years. They acted like I was crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
is part of the consequences of this environment that we are in, where women are second class citizens. I'm sorry, not sorry, but that is what women are.
Yeah, and also there's something that I heard mentioned before with the doctors, that women do not present the same symptoms as men when they are having a heart attack. So we don't suffer the thing that, oh, my left arm is getting numb and I feel it, the pressure in my chest. No, we don't get any of that.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's just pain in the neck
Hmm.
or in the jaw, and for that reason, a lot of women just suddenly drop dead, and then like, oh, it's so difficult to find out if women are having a heart attack because they have never done studies on women. All the studies have been done on men.
It's interesting too, because even when you consider autism, uh, they have sat there. First off, like the some of the research around it was dehumanizing, and people died for that because of that that part of the of history that we know in the world that happened. And then you have this other thing where with autism, the tools that they made are are based off of a cishet white man's
Mm-hmm.
presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So what they use as diagnostic criteria, and the way that they interpret it often is based off of a cishet white man's interpretation, which fails to take into consideration or account people who may present differently. And it also causes children to miss out on it, like it's missed opportunities for children, because children really can benefit from having
Mm-hmm.
access to resources at a younger age, because for them it is the isolation that comes with being autistic and not being given resources or having access to the resources that you need to be able to learn in the ways that you learn best, or to even access things in life that you need, the supports that you need to have a meaningful life. It is the most utterly crippling isolation that I just don't know how to describe it. There are no
Okay.
words for it, because you're a child and you haven't developed your ability to look at the world fully. You haven't even begun to comprehend like everything about yourself. Your brain isn't even fully developed, and you're trying to figure stuff out, and nobody will help you. And your peers don't accept you because they know you're different.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because unfortunately, people like to sit here and socialize their children and demonstrate to their children that anybody that is different from them is wrong and they're going to hell. Right back to the us versus them mentality, Alma. And then those children, they feel like they shouldn't even exist.
Yeah. And is that a sentiment of you are doing something wrong, but you don't know exactly what it is.
Uh-huh. And
And
then,
mhm.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and then sometimes somehow it's your fault that you don't know what it is that you are doing wrong. It's crazy.
Hmm. And you don't know what it is that you're doing wrong. They act as if autistic people can't be intelligent, and simultaneously as if we all have to be savants.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
If we're intelligent, we have to be savants.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the parents who are parents of autistic children, and some of them might be autistic as well. However, we have the parents who sit there and they tell people, as autistic people, we should not speak for other autistics because we don't know what it's like to be autistic, because they perceive us as having lower support needs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, I can hold a job, but there are many things that I need support in and that I actually receive support in. And I didn't even begin to acknowledge how much I needed that support until I had deconstructed completely from religion, because religion taught me it wasn't okay to need support.
Oh yeah. Yeah. As well, that is another thing. As women, we are necessary to be like the rock of the house. That we are to be the ones who have everything organized, everything in check. We need to know what everybody is doing at every moment, and we need to keep track of all of it. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you.
And you got to keep the house clean. You got to cook.
Hmm.
You got to bake. You got to sew. You got to garden. You got to make sure those children are being raised well. And also, while you're doing it, pop out a baby every year. Oh, and if you're in a specific religion, if you get raped, like some people might encourage you to drink
Hmm.
certain teas, because if your period's a couple days late, well, it's just really okay, because it's okay to hide the rape, right? But
Yeah.
if it's because of your husband, that was God's will, and it doesn't matter if you consented or not. It was God's will. It is your duty. You don't have the option of saying no. And then if you're pregnant and that fetus dies within utero,
You might as well die with them because we don't care. We really do not
DNC,
care.
a DNC is the worst sin you could ever commit. And if you die because of that fetus that died in utero, which that is a life-threatening condition for the record,
Hmm.
it was God's will, and you should accept it with a smile on your face. You can have 3 days to mourn.
Exactly. Or if you got a ectopic pregnancy, or
Mm-hmm.
even worse, if you had a molar pregnancy and that uh, pregnancy became or turned into a cancer, oh, that's so bad, but that's God's will. Just roll with it.
You know, if you were just properly submissive and you went with God's will, then, these things probably wouldn't have happened, but God's just testing you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just a test, just to see if you're going to be like who Job. He got screwed over because God was making a bet. That was important. It was a bet. Um, what was the bet for? Nothing, I guess, but God won the bet.
Didn't Satan say that he could get Job to
To curse
curse
God.
God?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. He said that he could do it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, let's do it. Let's make a bet."
Yeah, let's make the bet. So if he made the bet,
And his kids died, and then his every servant died, and he lost everything like in a couple days.
mm-hmm,
But I guess it was worth it, right?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was so worth it. But don't worry, he just replaced all of Job's kids. So, like, here's the thing, though. Didn't he already know the outcome of that before he made that bet?
Oh yeah, because he's all knowing.
So
What
then,
was
was
the
it even a
reason?
bet?
Yeah. Nope. There was no reason to make it. Unless it's just to be an a-hole. That could be a reason.
Like, I don't quite get it because for me, part of that also is in often it's been used to me and explained to me as this is like I should strive to be more like Job because if I was more like Job, then I would just accept the things that I experienced and then I would praise God for the suffering that I've had in life.
And thank him. You have to thank them because he did it to make you stronger.
Really though? Really? I mean, what I I was a child. Did I need to be made stronger?
Yeah, like it sounds like a pretty shitty reasoning, and it is.
It is a good reasoning. This sounds logical, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound logical at all. But uh, we are the ones in the wrong here, apparently, for some reason.
We shouldn't have been we shouldn't have been is asking for safety as a child really that wrong? Or is like expecting your parents and your community to provide safety for children? Is that really so wrong?
Apparently, according to God's plan, I think it is because it seems to keep happening over and over, and thousands of children who get to suffer that, and several women that just went out to work and never came back, never come back home.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
it seems that their supposed plan is working.
Do tell me, how is it working?
It's not working.
I mean,
Oh,
it's not working.
yeah.
Well, I just think that children deserve safety, and I think that part of this issue with like the war on women is like, when people like to sit there and they deny the reality of women being legislated against and women having laws made against appropriate medical care, like women's
Hmm.
medical care should be between them and their doctor. If it is medically necessary, it should be accessible.
Exactly. Now they have doctors jumping through hoops and not knowing what to do because they risk now to be put in jail. They risk to lose their license. They risk uh, everything just to taking care of a patient.
And part of I just don't quite grasp this. I am a certified medical coder and I'm a certified medical auditor. And part of what people don't quite understand is, and maybe this is part of the issue, is people sit there and they talk about all of these abortions.
Hmm.
And what they fail to recognize is that anytime you have a miscarriage, The correct diagnosis for that in medical terminology is a spontaneous abortion. And that is simply a medical term that means that the fetus was, that's it. That's all that
Mm-hmm.
is. That is not because the person that was carrying that fetus is a bad person. And
Mm-hmm.
to fully understand that, you have to understand that sometimes things go wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes things go wrong. And sometimes you have, like Alma was mentioning, the complications, but you even have situations where, you know, the baby's born and has no, like, there's no chance of survival at all whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And they have to watch them struggle with underdevelopment, or not being able to breathe, or
Mm-hmm.
just watching them slowly die, because that's better uh, than removing the pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
Just, they don't care about the suffering. They just care about, like, oh, those mm, horrible women. They deserve to be punished for some reason.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's also these, sometimes during development, things also go wrong.
Hmm.
And again, like, the the baby dies in utero. That is life threatening for the mothers, for the parents, for whoever is carrying that fetus. And for them to not have access to medical care for that,
Yeah, it's just horrible, and shows how much they really don't care. They really don't. They don't care that if you're a mom, if you already have maybe a couple children that depend on you, but you should die on the third one, because that's the plan,
divine plan, huh?
the divine plan. Hmm.
Yep. Um, and I think we perhaps might want to understand that this is not just, do we value the life of people? Do we value the life of all the children that are in foster care already? Do we value life of people that are already here? Or are we sitting here and giving a fetus which has potential for life? Like, what are we doing there?
Hmm.
Because I mean, I was always taught that, the Bible does say that life begins at first breath. Like, that was
Yeah.
my thing. Yeah.
Yeah, now they trying to make it from the moment that you miss your period. Like, what is that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
War on women says, there is a question. The war on women is a slogan on in the United States politics, used to describe state politics, used to describe certain Republican Party policies and the legislation as a wide-scale effort to restrict women's rights. Are Democrats better? I I don't think they're better, because whenever they have the chance to actually do something, they just like, oh, sorry, we can't. We have to go with whatever we are told. I don't know. I haven't seen um actually anything done in the Democratic Party, especially in red states, or where they're trying to do anything better. They just stay silent.
I think that what Carrie said, patriarchy is not a two-party system, it's all inclusive, is correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you we have this two-party system here, but it's almost like we really need to not have a two-party system here. I'm sorry, not sorry. Just my opinion for what it's worth. But part of like what drives me crazy is like when I watch Congress sitting there
Mm-hmm.
and it's like they can't get a budget passed.
Oh yeah.
How many years have we sat here and watched Congress literally not even passing a budget? When it is their job, it is literally their job description to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And why are we, the voters, allowing this to continue? Do we have the power to make that stop?
Mm-hmm.
It is their job to pass a budget in a timely manner.
Yeah.
And yet they sit there and they quibble amongst each other. There was a bill, oh my God, there was a bill this week. What was it called? Hmm. There was a bill about border security that was shut down. What happened to that? Why?
Oh yeah.
Why do you think they don't get anything done? Because they're too busy quibbling rather than figuring out ways to work together.
And you might think, the Republicans are always talking about, oh, we should stop those brown people, those dangerous brown people from coming. And suddenly, when there is something proposed regarding that, they're like, oh, no, 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 wait, no.
I just I find that so hypocritical. They've been sitting there talking about this whole time, and then there's a bill, and now they don't want it. I'm sorry, what?
No, they just want to sit there and pout. That's their thing. That's because it's easier as long there is that problem. It's easier for them to win elections and to have people riled up and saying, "Oh, I'm going to do something about this group of brown people coming." I'm not actually going to do anything about it, but it's great for me. So if you want to donate, my PayPal is this.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. I
Yeah,
just find that slightly hypocritical. I'm sorry, not sorry. Like you mm-mm. And
yeah.
don't even get me started on how like Obamacare was gutted.
Oh yeah, that too. They are so pro-life, and somehow they don't want people to get healthcare. They just want to
How
die.
is how is it pro-life to not want people to have health care? Like I'm confused on that. I don't think that quite meets the like pro-life means you want people to live, right? Like
Yeah,
you want people to live. I just don't quite understand how that is pro-life. It doesn't make any logical sense to me.
exactly. And you know why they were also so angry about it? Because they were asking Texas to remove the barbed wire from the river because the barbed wire caused a mother and two kids to drown. And they were saying, well, yeah, that's what we wanted. We don't want to remove the wire. We wanted to keep it. That's how pro-life they are.
So they're pro-life as long as it's people existing that they approve of. What do we got to do to get on the approval list, Alma?
Mm. Guess I will
Oh,
have to, I don't know, be born white.
I'm, I'm sorry. I can't.
other countries are having a war on women too? Is this a problem of the Republican Party mostly, or it's just misogyny worldwide, or both? I think it's both, because when I was talking at first regarding these um, so-called gurus, most of them are starting to do it on Latin America. We have a bunch of them that they were having a conference on the International Day of Men. Of course, they charge like 3 times the monthly salary to enter and give advices to men because, yeah. And the advices were like, yeah, hate them. Or um, women all want the same thing: 6 feet, 6 figures, and six pack. That's my advice to you. Get those things. Ah, that's such a great advice.
No, no, no. Hey, Bree has some advice for you.
Hmm.
Just say you're Cuban and then trash talk Castro, and the GOP will love you.
Ah, yeah. And if I do that, then I can, you know, move to Texas, run for Congress, and then. But if the weather in Texas is too bad, I can run to Cancun.
Oh my God, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Anyway, uh, we have a really great question. As a Democrat and a man, what can I do to help this? I think that one, you're
Yeah, that too. Oh, I guess that too. Yeah, I forgot that part. Damn. Yep.
oh my God. Okay, y'all are on fire. Anyways, let's talk about what men can do to help, because I think men really can help by elevating the voices of women. They can elevate the voices of the marginalized. They can sit there and, like, if you see something, say something. Like, if you see people, you know, locker room talk, promoting ideas that perpetuate um, harm and violence towards marginalized people or other people, like, sometimes you can challenge that. Hey,
Yeah,
like, what do you mean?
exactly. And also, like, if you are listening to your buddies or your coworkers saying something completely misogynist, sometimes you are just shaking your head and saying, "Oh, this is so wrong." They might be embarrassed to say that again, and
You,
think before talking next time.
and the other thing is like, yeah, vote blue if you can. I
Hmm.
mean, um, the other thing is that I've been encountering this phenomenon sometimes where when I present information, uh, sometimes cishet men are a little bit offended because they feel like it's a personal attack. And I'm here to tell you it's not a personal attack. This is not a personal attack unless you feel like it is. And then in that case, I guess maybe it is for you. But the fact of the matter is if we don't talk about the ways in which men and women interact, we can't address the things that sometimes come up. And part of what many men do not understand is their inherent privilege, their privilege that exists purely because they are cis heterosexual males.
Hmm.
And when somebody's telling you that you are displaying that privilege, even if it feels really uncomfortable, sit with that, examine what you just did, explore that, and perhaps you might be able to see or put yourself in that other person's shoes for just a second to understand why. Like, one of the things is when people have this mentality of like, oh, it's not that hard, life is not that hard, um, you can do X, Y, and Z because blah 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 blah. Well, I did it, it was easy for me. But you're a cishet white man.
Hmm.
So when you not walked into the bank and you asked for a loan, automatically your cishet white man privilege gave you better access to funding for your adventures than somebody else.
Exactly. Hmm. Well, also, I want to take a little bit of a pause to thank our patrons: Eric Ossols, Ryan, Deneen Murphy, Dan D, Michael Weisman, Cindy Plaza, Sunny Shell, Aaron Colson, Phil Calderon, Amanda McLeod, and Logan Fisher. Thank you so much for being our patrons. And who anyone wants to still call, or um, we also have the stickers or a super chat. You can also do it at this time so we can read your opinions and any questions that you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Love your patrons. Love your patrons because patrons are amazing. They really
Okay.
help us out.
Hmm.
Um, Another thing is you can get involved in grassroots efforts in your local areas if you want to help. Sorry, I got a lot to say about helping. You can
Yes.
get involved in grassroots efforts by circulating information. You can attend local meetings about various topics. You can, make an investment to be engaged in the politics and the policy making of your local community at the lowest level possible, and go from there. And
Exactly.
again, like specifically you, because I kind of know you a little bit, like somebody else mentioned, you're already doing it. You're like listening to hear and learn. In the entire time that I've known you, I've never known you to just like completely dismiss like whatever we've been discussing, even if like we had different viewpoints and perspectives. You've taken the time to examine like what we were thinking. We've had in-depth, deep conversations about those topics, and that is where the value is in having those conversations, because it can leave us with this new understanding of what we can and can't do and how we can be better.
Yeah, yeah. I think learning from whatever we did in the past and listening to where the people are coming from is essential. Like I will still have some, some ways of think that I used to have when I was a believer. Like, oh, it is wrong for a woman to disobey her husband. That was one of the things that I used to believe. Like, I thought that if I kept my being deserving of my husband, everything will go great. And when it didn't, it was like a really shocking experience to me. When none of that mattered, and everything was still wrong, and I was still at fault for some reason. So yeah, having this type of conversation in realizing that there is other people who has different experiences and where are they coming from, I think is very valuable. And also, I don't know if you have seen, sometimes even women are so entrenched in that kind of thinking, uh, that sometimes even the worst comments come sometimes from women. You will see posts where somebody's getting a divorce, and you will see somewhere someone saying, with a profile of a woman saying, "Oh yeah, it's her fault because he cheated, but it's her fault because she should have done something better or do this or being like that." I don't know.
Or, she just didn't uphold her marriage bed properly.
Oh yeah, yeah, they weren't proper
Well,
couple.
she was a better wife.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, The patriarchy, if it didn't have its enforcers, wouldn't exist the way that it does. It
Mm-hmm.
has to have its enforcers, the people who benefit from proxy, from power by proxy. And what
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about is the enforcers. You're talking about the people who uphold the patriarchy, and they impose that on other people, other women, because they benefit
From
from
it.
proximity to power. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember how sometimes, like, the preacher's wife, um, they will have an MLM scheme, and they have at her disposal all the women in the congregation because um, she's the wife of the pastor, so everybody should listen to her, no matter what she says, no matter how crazy it is. And she's the one who's teaching every woman and every girl how to behave and how to be, and it's horrible sometimes.
And then the other part is the shaming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, sometimes you get the shaming there, which it's prevalent. It's like we're expected to always care about what other people think and consider that. And if we don't live up to their expectations, then we should be ashamed. And to be taught that, to be indoctrinated to believe that from a young age, and then, growing up with that always being a part of your process of how you navigate life,
Mm-hmm.
it's really harmful because if you do not comply with the demands of the patriarchy, then you should be ashamed of yourself. That's where purity culture originates, from patriarchal power and control. The
Mm-hmm.
patriarchy has benefited from that purity culture, which has disproportionately harmed women and girls.
Yes, the purity culture is so terrible. Mm. This happened not to somebody in my family, but this is a story that of somebody we knew. Um, it was in the 1940s, and there was this woman. Um, she was a musician, and she was young, and I think she was about to get married. And one day, some dude just saw her and grabbed her, took took her to his house, and that was it. Now she was his wife, and she was unable to escape that marriage for 40 years until he died. Imagine just having a stranger just taking you from your family and everything, and oh no, you're my wife now. You stay here.
That's so terrible because it's, again, like the crimes that get perpetuated against women, and how, like, if you look at the World Health Organization, I believe, isn't it like 1 in 5 have experienced sexual abuse
Hmm.
as a whole? Like, I would consider that to be like, that was kidnapping. Like,
Yeah. Mm, yeah, and there was nothing nobody could do about it.
because
Well, mhm,
it's like 1 in 3.
1 and 3.
Yeah, it's terrible. But anyways, that is an example of like all the things. It's like trafficking, like separating you from your family, from your community of origin, removing all of your supports, removing everybody that you know. And so I think that we collectively can do better than this. I think that society just has to find a way to come together and hold people accountable. And part of that involves actually raising awareness about the issues at hand. which include all of the things that we have discussed in this live. And part of the ways that people can come together is they can come together by lifting up each other's voices to raise a better awareness. And we have been doing that for a while now. However, we also need to have collective movements.
Yes, and thank you for saying that. But yeah, we have to find a way to be a collective and support other women. As- we have to stop thinking an us versus them mentality. Even though we have that so much in ourselves because of the way that the religion was embedded into us. But I think one of the things that we can do is basically try to support the women movements and everything uh, that is trying to be done to help them. Like you show we show over here the domestic violence hotline, and just be mindful that even if it's not happening to you, it's happening to somebody else, and because of that, you should be able to be aware of the problem.
I would also like to give you my final thoughts now.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
so if you see something, say something. You know,
Hmm.
every state has a hotline. If you think somebody has potential for being like trafficked or sexually abused, or if you suspect a child is being abused in any way, you can always report it. Every state has a hotline. You can do it anonymously. Another thing is you can educate yourself on like evidence-based best practice information for prevention of abuse. You can also become trauma informed and aware. There's a lot of free classes out there about trauma, so you want to make sure you're getting some from like actually qualified professionals who are capable of giving you good information about trauma. There's unfortunately quite a few people out there who are embracing new age things, but they're almost like reinventing the wheel for previous high control groups and doing it under a new age umbrella. So be careful of that. There's even yoga cults out there. Um, Educate yourself on like different types of culture and how to be culturally competent with those groups, because inside of religion and external to religion is two different cultures and
Hmm.
environments. How do you communicate with people like that? You know, and assist in helping community leaders to have action plans in place, like prior to crimes being reported. Volunteer at your local domestic violence or crisis center. Print out resources and display or hand them out in public areas. You know, sometimes people find information purely by the fact that there was a phone number in a public bathroom. You never know. And you can always wear t-shirts that share messages. You know, you could even come
Exactly.
together and fund billboards. Like, how do you get the message out? Well, that's it. You organize and you put out information, you share information.
Exactly. Hmm. Well, and thank you so much for being here with me. It's unfortunately with that we didn't have any callers at this time, but I think this is something that we're going to try to do again, maybe later in other shows regarding the people calling in. And thank you so much for to everybody for being here and for joining us and giving us your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
Have a wonderful day, and I'm gone.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away.